Did it work? Are we live? I hope the audio is okay. I haven't done a live stream in a minute. And if the anchor make is too loud, just let me know. I can turn it off. But the fan on that thing is kind of nutty. The M5 is a very loud machine. Does do some pretty great prints though. Also, testing out the new lighting. I haven't got a chance to see that live yet, so I'm really excited. It is super bright, and I don't look like a ghost anymore, probably. Audio is good. Thank you, Calyx. So, I don't really have a whole lot to talk about to do, but I got to thinking, and we didn't do a video last week because life was kind of hectic and crazy, and I wanted to take this past weekend off and just relax. Well, at about upload time yesterday, that was when I realized that was not necessarily a great idea. Like, I realized just how important making a video every week has become. So instead, I thought it would be kind of a fun thing to go ahead and do a short to medium-ish live stream. I think I'm thinking probably about an hour tonight. I really want to talk about the Bambu A1. I've got mine ordered and it's on the way, but that machine has been so divisive. I think it's a really unique opportunity to talk about and something that's kind of making waves in the 3D printing world right now. So I want to get some other people's kind of thoughts and opinions. I'm really excited for mine to show up and to get to play with it. As of the moment, though, all I can do is just kind of speculate like everybody else and just enjoy what we're seeing coming. I've got to spend a little bit of time playing around in Maker World this week, which is the kind of Bambu Lab equivalent of printables. And a lot of folks are saying it's just printables with green mode turned on, and there's kind of some drama going on there too. I mean, there's been a lot of drama in the 3D printing world surrounding the A1's release and then everything else that's going on with that. So I kind of want to dive into it a little bit. I really don't want to provoke any more drama, but I think that it's one of those things where this machine is what everybody is talking about right now, and there's a lot to kind of digest and a lot to kind of unpack with it. So for those of you who don't know, the A1 Mini is the newest release from AnchorMake. The A1 Mini is the newest release from Bambu Lab, not AnchorMake, and this machine is at a really interesting price point. It's also kind of curious. So in the hype and the build-up for the X1 Carbon's release last year, Bambu Labs said pretty plain and simple, no more bed slingers. They made the X1 because they were tired of the current state of 3D printing, and they thought that they could do better, and that gave us the X1 Carbon. And I don't think that in the entire time that I've been 3D printing, I have ever seen a singular machine release ever flip things on end as much as the X1 Carbon did. When that machine came out, it brought Voron levels of speed to people who didn't know how and didn't want to build a Voron. So it was really exciting. It was one of the first done well Core XY 3D printers for the consumer market. There have been several. Bambu was not the first to do a consumer level Core XY, but they did it really, really well. They did it in a manner that nobody else was doing it, and it just turned everything else completely up on end. And that's kind of where we have to start. When that machine was first announced, it was a Kickstarter. Granted, they were shipping out demo machines to basically every content creator who had a name behind them. And we got to see those machines in a lot of people's hands, and it was an incredibly successful Kickstarter campaign. Well, from the initial inception of the X1 Carbon, a lot of people in the 3D printing world were not happy with Bambu Lab. And there were a few reasons for that. One of the big ones was, up to this point, most things in the 3D printing world have been open source. And it's been a community very much of giving. If you're a model designer, you know all about that. If you are trying to sell your models, people tend to get kind of unhappy unless you are a big deal designer. A lot of folks in the space, I wouldn't even say all or most, but a lot of people expect all designs in the 3D printing world to be free. And that's not necessarily the reality of the situation, because there are a lot of really talented people who design really fantastic models, and I don't think they should have to give their work away. And that's kind of an interesting segue from the open source conversation, because in the world of 3D printing, a lot of where we are now is because of the entire RepRap movement. And the whole backbone behind that was building 3D printers that could print the parts to build 3D printers. At the time of the RepRap movement starting, we were really locked into patent territory. Stratasys owned a lot of patents that prevented very good things in the 3D printing world, so we had to get really creative and get away from that. And there are some companies like Prusa who really thrived in the open source world. Prusa actually got a start by making the heated beds in his dorm room. Joseph Prusa was making actual heated beds, PCB beds, in his dorm room in college to improve the 3D printing landscape. A lot of newer people in the 3D printing world see bed temperature 60 Celsius and they take that for granted. When I was shopping for my first 3D printer, heated bed was still on the verge of a luxury item and not a standard that you get on every machine that's coming out. And it's only been within the last few years where that's really become the standard. Now, what does that have to do with open source? What does that have to do with Bambu? What does that have to do with Prusa? How does Prusa have to do with Bambu? Well, for a very long time, Prusa they were the home game king. And that's because the Mark II was a phenomenal machine, and the Mark III really just took it to another level. Sensorless homing, silent drivers, the magnetic flex build plate that is mostly a standard option now, were all truly fantastic. A large portion of the parts you could actually just go on ahead and 3D print yourself, and that meant that if you had the means to print ABS or PETG, you could fix your machine for the most part without having to purchase any parts. And Prusa was orange. Orange is cool. But aside from that point, Bambu Lab kind of came out of absolutely nowhere, right? They just popped up. They were sending creators machines. They had secured funding, I believe, initial corporate capital funding in China, and that brought us to the release of the original X1 and the X1 Carbon. Now, there was a difference. There was the X1 and there was the X1 Carbon. The X1 Carbon was the main flagship 3D printer being offered by Bambu Lab. The X1 was a lower price point machine that used plastic side panels but still had all the LiDAR sensors and everything that made the X1 what it was. It was basically like an early release proto version of the P1S. The P1S launched after the P1P, which was a really, really stripped down machine. It used the same general frame, the same chassis, the same motion system, the same slicer, and a lot of the same protocol, but it didn't have the fancy touchscreen. The P1P was not enclosed, whereas the X1, X1C, and P1S all are. And very quickly, the X1 kind of faded off. Now, part of why the Bambu machines were as controversial as they were is they were closed source. They still are closed source. We're not accessing the firmware. We're not able to make changes to what's happening with the way the machine operates. And that's not necessarily by design of Bambu. Or that's not the right way to say that. That's not necessarily... Bambu doesn't necessarily see that as a bad thing, because their firmware they're claiming is part of their secret sauce that helps the machines operate as well as they do. Well, part of the problem is there's some controversy in the community of the 3D printing world, where it seems like there are perhaps some elements that have been borrowed from other firmwares, like the fact that the machine can do its own resonance testing, very similar to Input Shaper from Clipper. The speeds and tuning, the way the machine handles things, very, very reminiscent of Clipper. So, Bambu has been controversial since day one. I'm not going to pretend like I know every single in and out, and if I'm speaking out of place on any of these subjects, let me know in the comments. Let's have a discussion about it. But last week, Bambu Lab released a sub $500 machine. In fact, you can buy the machine on its own for $299 US. That's a big freaking deal, because it's 180 millimeter cube build volume. So it's not a big printer. It's bigger than a Voron Zero, but it's smaller than an Ender 3. And it's a bed slinger, which means that instead of being a Core XY where the tool head moves around along the build plate, the bed moves back and forth, the head of the machine moves left and right, and the print head is on the Z gantry, so it raises as your model's built. Bed slingers are not inherently bad machines, but they are lower end in terms of the kinematic motion system, but you have to remember, they're going for a cheap machine. They're going for something that is very affordable. And it's really hard right now to do Core XY like the X1 or a Voron 2.4 or Trident. It's really hard to do those machines cheap. They're big, especially when they come pre-assembled. It makes it to where they are very hard to flat pack, which adds to cost. You have more packaging material, you have a larger box, which means it's also going to be more expensive to ship. So it is a lot more difficult to get a machine like my P1P shipped to you affordably when it's pre-assembled. And that's why Prusa, for the longest time, they've done kit machines where the machine can come really flat packed, and part of the fun, like IKEA furniture, is assembling the thing yourself in your living room over the course of around 8 to 10 hours with really, really good documentation. Well, the A1 Mini, coming in at its $299 price tag, comes fully assembled. And that's a hallmark of what Bambu is doing. Everything is coming fully assembled, which makes life an absolute breeze. It means that your barrier to actually printing is a lot lower. You get to open that box and start printing. And you do have, again, a 180 millimeter by 180 millimeter build volume on the X and Y, and 180 millimeter tall. Those are the same build plate dimensions as the Prusa Mini. A lot of people were really unhappy when the Prusa Mini came out, surprise, surprise, because the machine was a small machine. And, I mean, let's be real, most of us are not filling up the build volume on a daily basis on even an Ender 3 or a P1P. Like, most of the stuff that I print is on the smaller side, like this cool little pumpkin dude. And I don't need a lot of build volume most of the time. Would I have loved to have seen that machine be announced as the Prusa, or the Bambu XL, yeah, I really would have. Selfishly, I would have. But I think I was more excited to see that it was a smaller, more compact machine. And what Bambu is doing is really interesting. They're putting themselves directly toe-to-toe with the Prusa Mini in terms of price and who is generally going to be buying the machine. Being said, a Prusa Mini is $459 to buy a semi-assembled one, okay? And that's $459 US. And for me to order that machine directly from Prusa, it is $42.95 to have it shipped by way of DHL. $501.95 is my grand total if I were to buy a Prusa Mini right now, today. And then I still had to put some of the machine together. Whereas with the Bambu A1 Mini, I purchased the mega bundle, mega pack, the one where you get all the stuff. And you get, in that pack, you get the printer, you get the new AMS Lite, which I'm really stoked about that. That's really interesting. But you also get 3 spare hot ends. You get a 0.2 stainless steel, a 0.4 and a 0.6 hardened, and a replacement build sheet. Super, super nice. That whole bundle is $509. So you get all of those things, and with tax and shipping, I paid $566.03. So I paid $66 more for a machine on linear rails instead of rods, and I got all of the spare parts, and I'm going to get to print in multiple colors, 4 colors, for $66 more than a Prusa Mini would have cost. And I don't have to put the machine together. Way, way lower barrier to getting started. Being said, the flip side of that, the AMS Lite does require a little bit of assembly, if I recall correctly. I'm really stoked, so I've been watching a lot of videos about the machine. I mean, and I paid for it with my own money. I'm not being sponsored, I'm not being paid to say any of these things, so 100% all of these opinions are my own, and I'm genuinely excited to get a new machine to play with. Was I excited to buy a new machine? Yeah, I was. I like getting new 3D printers. It's fun for me. Loyal Moses has his filament addiction. I love the 3D printers. Also, the pumpkin's gonna live here. We can see him better there. Need a drink. I'm a little bit under the weather. Got a little bit of a tickle in my throat. Hopefully that gets cleared up in the next day or so. But you gotta stay hydrated if you want to feel better. I should probably sleep more, but I don't see that happening anytime soon. So, $66 more for the A1 Mini, and I can also do multiple colors. Yeah, that's a pretty good bargain. I mean, as of right now, the #1 best option to do multiple colors is probably going to be the MMU from Prusa, but that's not open to all of the printers. What is the new one cost? The MMU 3. Let's take a look here. I'll show you guys. I'll bring up my screen. One moment. I'm kind of not great with this whole OBS stuff, and I'm streaming on one monitor just because I wanted to get a quick stream in, just because I didn't do a video this week. Kind of starting to toy around with the idea of maybe doing a stream one week and a full video the next, and just kind of alternating what we do. I'm not 100% sure. I do really enjoy making videos, and I really wish that I had done a video this week. So, yeah, we'll see. All right, let's see here. Okay. Okay, definitely a professional streamer. I definitely know exactly what I'm doing. All right, so we're on the Prusa site. So let's see what the multi-material MMU3 is. I will say one thing that I absolutely love about what Prusa does is they give you an upgrade path for the machines, so that way you can take your Mark III to a Mark IV. I do think that that's a really fantastic business practice. And then there's like a 3.5 and a 3.9 upgrade path. So I'm a big fan of that. Let's try to just search for MMU. Original Prusa MMU3. MMU3 upgrade kit. Mark IV to MMU3. Okay, so if you want the printed parts, it will cost $329 to make your Mark IV print in 5 colors. And the MMU2 was compatible with the Prusa Mini. So I think that's around what I think I paid like $350 for the MMU that I had. I didn't love that experience. I only ever successfully printed 2 colors at a time, and running an MMU on my Mark 2.5, it made that machine way harder than it needed to be to print with if I was just doing 1 color, which made me really sad because I loved my Prusa. It was a fantastic machine. It was my workhorse for a really long time. So it made me sad that the MMU did not work as well for me out of the box as some other people. And I think that the AMS system is a little bit more simple, a little bit more streamlined. The other option to go with is the Palette 3. And that is a much more expensive upgrade situation. Now, you can print with a 3 Pro up to 8 colors, which is really cool, but it is not cheap. It is $800 for a Palette 3 Pro without shipping or anything. That is kind of crazy. And I don't find a lot of need to print 4 or 5 colors. I'm excited to have the opportunity. I might do it a lot once I have the ability to do it. But $800 is really steep. So, Bambu giving us the add-on very affordably. Okay, it's crazy. Let's see here. USA store. So, you get the AMS Lite. The price difference is not steep. So it's $459 for the machine with the AMS Lite, or the machine by itself for $300. So $159-ish, $160 for the AMS Lite. $160 to print 4 colors. That's pretty good. So I'm really excited about that because you get all of those options and it's not outlandishly expensive. It's pretty affordable to be able to print a bunch of colors and really make your parts stand out. Like my little pumpkin here, I would not have had to print his little hat separately or to glue it together, I could have just done that as one print and called it a day. That would have been really exciting. But it still turned out great. I don't have an issue with doing that. And there's a lot of workarounds. There's a lot of really cool stuff that you can do in order to make your prints be multiple colors with just one extruder system. So it's not the end of the world. Multicolor units or machines for most of us are not necessities. They are not essentials. It's just a cool thing that can add some cool to your prints. For now, I think that as these multi-material units are getting, one, easier to use, and two, more affordable, I think that they're going to really increase the amount of people who are designing models for multiple colors, which, hey, I'm about that. Let's do it. Let's see multiple colors. And it's just going to make 3D printing even more fun. And something I think is really cool about what Bambu is doing with... hold on, this collar is driving me crazy. So something I think really cool that Bambu is doing with the price point and where they're situating the A1 Mini, which, by the way, the name A1 Mini kind of implies an A1 or A1 Max, right? Are we going to see a big, McLarge, huge bed slinger from Bambu in the near future? I kind of hope so. That'd be kind of cool. Hey, don't get me wrong, I love my Core XY machines, but I've been using bed slingers for a while, and they work great. So I think that the barrier to entry on multicolor printing is just continuing to come down. You don't have to set it all up necessarily yourself, and Prusa Slicer and Bambu Studio both make it super duper easy to just set it up and just print the thing. And I love that. Like, Prusa Slicer gave us the ability to paint with multiple colors really easily, and that's something that Bambu has implemented into Bambu Studio, which I absolutely love that. So I think that we're going to continue to see more companies start to implement something like that. Like, I feel like Creality, being Creality, is probably going to do some borrowing from the Enraged Rabbit Carrot Feeder, which is the MMU for Vorons, or any machine running clipper, and the Prusa MMU. And I feel like in the not so distant future, we're going to see Creality answer this multicolor situation with their own version of an MMU or multicolor unit. Especially seeing as they're starting to run Clipper on their machines, it's going to be pretty easy for them to implement that. Now, something else that Bambu did with the release of the A1 is they also released their own service, their own file hosting service called MakerWorld. And MakerWorld looked, especially on launch day, it looked a lot like printables, but in green. And some of the site still does. Let's bring you over there and show you what that looks like. So when we go to makerworld.com, this home screen looks very, very similar to the printables home screen. Basically, they're taking the idea of what printables is and they're bringing it over to their own sharing site, which I don't love the idea of having to look for models in another place, selfishly, because I'm lazy. Personally, I have entirely stopped using printables. I have entirely stopped using Thingiverse in exchange for using printables. Printables, as of the moment, is the main site that I check for files on, and if I can't find it there, I will check Thangs. Thangs is pretty sweet. But if I can't find it on printables or Thangs, it just doesn't exist. Doesn't exist to me. Now, I have found some cool stuff on cults, but I really only get on cults when I'm looking for something specific. So, the fact that Bambu took it upon themselves to release another file sharing site was beguiling to me, but everything seems to function pretty okay. So, earlier today, I went ahead and migrated basically all of my models from printables over here. I don't have any downloads or print profiles set up yet, which that's whatever. I don't really print things in the hopes of becoming a super famous designer. I post my designs because, hey, if it's something that I needed and I made it and it helped me, someone else probably wants it too, and that's okay with me. So, very similar to printables, Maker World has a reward system. So you can come in here and you can earn points by uploading models and filling out your profile and uploading a print profile or rating other profiles. And like printables, you can redeem these for prizes. Now, I'll talk about this in a little bit, but Bambu's doing these little hardware kits, and I think that is a really interesting idea, and we are going to dive deeper into that, but it is something to keep an eye on. In addition to that, they have some premium models that you can purchase and download with your points, like this really rad tank, or this castle that I'm too afraid to pronounce the name of, or a $40 gift card. I mean, who doesn't love 40 bucks? Now, I am made to understand that they have some sort of stipulation on this gift card where it expires in a year. I don't know what the situation with that is, but that's a thing, I guess. Yay, Bambu. But I like the flow. I mean, it feels familiar because it really does feel like it's based off of printables. And, I mean, for the most part, it functions every bit just the same. It's just a Bambu Lab-centric version of printables. And as we're coming through here, you're going to see some models from people that you might recognize, like Ben Levi here. Super talented creator. He actually has made some really awesome mod kits for Ender 3s and designed his own super awesome Core XY printer. He designed this really neat riser kit that's modular and customizable. You can put some tools in here. And if you check this out, you have pre-sliced files in order to make these, where they tell you what the time takes. I love that idea to an extent. So Printables does the same thing, and it was kind of controversial when it first launched as Prusa printers. Tom's 3D, Thomas and Ladder, I don't recall off the top of my head what his new channel name is. Made with Layers. Thomas and Ladder, Made with Layers, I think is what his new channel name is. Anyway, when Prusa printers, now known as Printables, first launched, Tom did a really cool video showing the dangers of downloading pre-sliced files. So if you do print one of these pre-sliced files, be careful. Be careful. Because some people can post things maliciously, and it's not always going to be in the best interest of you and those around you. And there are certain G-code commands that can be ran that can force a machine to actually cause harm to itself. And you don't want that. So I would express a layer of caution when you're printing some of these pre-sliced files. But with how simple Bambu is trying to make everything with the mobile app and Bambu Studio being as simple, for the most part, as it is to operate, this was kind of the next step in the process. And they even had the files in here for their little hardware kits. And there are different profiles made by other members of the maker community. And that's what's really cool is you can post a profile, and by posting that, you can actually earn some of these Magic Bamboo coins to use in the Magic Bamboo store here on Maker World. The flip side of this is you can also, in the Bamboo Studio app now, you can actually just start a print. So I'm not sure if I have a way to share my screen from my phone. Let's find out. I want to show you guys the app too. I think it's really neat. Kyle said same here with printables. Are they rewarding us for posting the shareable G codes and things on printables now? I've never shared G code on any of my models. Plug my phone in. What is this? I don't want to use it as a share iPhone screen. Let's see if I can figure out how to share my phone screen. Probably not. Yeah, so, I mean, that's one thing, Kyle, where they're kind of separating things, is they've been able to upload G-code basically since printables first launched. And if I'm being honest, I had my Mark 2.5S, so I didn't have one of the Cool Kid machines like a Mark III. Yeah, Calyx, I can actually find the model here and just share it in chat. Which I downloaded on printables the other day. This is Polymaker, Silk Orange, and Silk Green, and I think it turned out awesome. Also, there is a hole in the bottom, so you can put LED tea light candles. Don't put a real one in there. You'll probably cause a fire. Don't burn your houses down. Let me see here. It is Gordo the Pumpkin. It was designed by Bugman140. And Bugman has some really awesome models. I'll throw it in chat, Calyx, and I can text it to you as well. So, there you go, buddy. You should have that one now. Yeah, so I'm not seeing a good way to share my phone screen. But basically, since the Bamboo machines came out, with Bamboo Handy, their mobile app, you've been able to reprint files that you've already printed and post them. All right, this is going to be sketchy. Let's see if this works. I might have to bring the phone to you. But can you guys see this okay? We're gonna do something harebrained, I guess. Oh, that's actually pretty clear. Let me come closer and not make a mess. Mess incoming. Okay. All right. I'm behind the camera, so I can show you the phone on the camera. So you probably can't read it very well. That's okay. But with this new Bamboo Handy update, you can just find these models in here pre-sliced. So like, here's a really cool pumpkin. And there's a button right here that says prepare to print. So you can just scroll through and we can hit print and you'll see different profiles based off of different machines. And you can pick which one you want to do. It tells you the layer height, it tells you the time, it tells you about the model, shows you the wall counts and things like that. And that's available right now for the X1, X1 Carbon, P1S, and P1P if there's a file for it. And of course, if there's one for the A1 Mini, there'll be one there as well. So you can search for models in here, and if there's a pre-sliced one, you can just launch it from the app. So let's see if we can find something. Oh, that is sweet. I'm a big Batman fan. Oh. I don't want to make it right now, but these Batman and Gotham bookends, super sweet for the book nerds in your life. Wexter, these minis are fantastic. That's a cute little ghosty friend. We got a little car. Yeah, there's some sweet stuff in here. Let's see. I really like these little turtles. There's these little print-in-place turtles that I've made a load of by Squin. I'm a big fan of these. So let's go ahead and print one. And if it's too loud, just let me know. But we're going to print it on the P1P. Let's see, 0.12 layer height. Sorry, you probably can't see that very well. 0.12 layer height. This is super out of focus. 48 minutes. Here we go. Here's one that will only take 37 minutes. Let's send it and see what happens. Then you can just pick your printer, and if you have an AMS, you can pick that. You can pick which filament you're using. I have, what is it? 3D Innovators PLA right now. And you can also, if you wanted to print more than one, I really love this. So Anchor Make has their own app where you can pick and choose, or you can print models that are pre-sliced by them, which is neat, but it's doesn't have as many options. So just being able to pick this and print several of them. All right, now here's where the disaster is coming. Excuse the mess. If your workshop's not a mess, you're a liar. Anybody who works in a perfectly clean workshop is not working out of that workshop. The problem that I have, as you can see behind me, is any flat surface gets destined to be used for storage. The important thing is, I didn't fall and die. So, I also didn't break anything on myself or in the workshop. So, I think it's really cool that with the release of the A1 Mini, Bambu has done this huge update with the Bambu Handy app and given it a ton more functionality by being able to browse models. If the machine gets too loud, let me know. We can stop the print. I don't want it to be obnoxious. So anyway, they're positioning themselves in this really unique spot. They're releasing a machine that with multicolor is really affordable. It's a really, like, $300 for the machine on its own is not an inexpensive investment, and I acknowledge that. But compared to what $300 used to buy you, that's a lot of printer. I spent around $400 last year on my Ender 3S1. Admittedly, it doesn't get used as much as I'd like, but that's because it required so much tinkering compared to my P1P, which I already had. And it was just ready to go. The P1P was. So I think that Bambu, undercutting everybody in terms of price, is positioning themselves in a really interesting place. Like, the machine looks a lot like the what is it? King Rune, something or other. The King Rune printer, another cantilevered bed slinger. And Bambu's going kind of at that same demographic, but they're also making the machine easier to use. Sorry guys, throat was getting a little dry. So, I personally would find, as a new 3D printer, I would find what Bambu is doing significantly less intimidating than having to set up a King Rune machine or having to even do some assembly on a Prusa Mini. Now, granted, it's not a lot of assembly if you buy the non-kit version. You can buy it in a kit too, where you do most of the assembly yourself and save some money there, but let's be real. We're trying to save as much time as possible. And the Prusa Mini has been incredibly popular for a print farm printer because they're cheap, especially in a business setting, right? Well, depending on how everything unfolds, depending on how the machine goes, the A1 Mini, I could see print farms absolutely full of A1 Minis because of the low upfront cost and lack of hassle when it comes to assembling them. Time will tell. We'll see how they perform in the real world. Very few people actually have their hands on them yet. There's a handful of content creators who received theirs early to help hype the machines up. And there are also, I'm not sure who within the company maybe was given a machine or was able to buy one. I don't know how all of that works. I don't pretend like I know the logistics. I just make stuff. And a lot of us were able to pre-order them last week at launch time. But we're not expecting those machines until early October. So we don't know really hands-on how the machine feels and how it looks. We're just taking the word of our favorite creators that it's cool. And I really, before I can recommend or suggest it, obviously I have to be able to play with it and put it through its paces and make sure that everything is working well with it. Based off the price point, though, I could see it being an absolute monster for print farms. How loud is the P1P right now? Is it obnoxious? Thank you, Kyle. I'm really excited to get it. I pre-ordered it within the first few minutes, like as soon as I could get through checkout on the site, because I'm really hyped. I think this machine is going to be kind of pivotal. I think it's going to be a big deal in the 3D printing world. I will say I am a little bit disappointed in Bambu for the way they handle some of the things that they're doing. They're borrowing or stealing / plagiarizing. Again, Maker World looks a lot like printables. It's really, really hard to deny the influence, right? But ultimately, they're doing a lot of really cool stuff, and I think that they're going to continue. Sir, calm down. I think that they're doing some really cool stuff. I just wish that we didn't have some of the issues that we have with them. I mean, look, it's nothing that we haven't seen in 3D printing before. Creality likes to borrow and not give credit where credit is due. They like to force you into using a slicer. Like, I really like what Bambu is doing, but at the same time, I really wish that they would give credit where credit is freaking due. Don't just copy the source code and Control F or Command F if you're a Mac user and change everything that says Prusa to Bambu Labs. Don't just steal. Give them the credit. Be proactive about giving them the credit. Because you didn't do a lot of the hard work. Now, Bambu did have to do a lot of work, I'm sure, in developing their own proprietary firmware, and they had to get people designing their version of the slicer, which, for all the newer people, this doesn't mean a whole lot, but Prusa Slicer is based off of an older slicer that was called Slicer or Slick 3R, and Prusa was always very, very good about giving credit where credit is due. Super Slicer is another slicer based off of Prusa Slicer and Slick 3R, and they've done a fantastic job about giving credit where credit is due. The Soft Fever fork of Bambu Studio, Orca Slicer, also does a great job of giving credit. When you're working with open source things and you're going to use things that people made before you, give credit where it's due. Like, it's really hard for me to... It's hard to want to recommend something where there are shady business practices happening, but at the same time, I still really enjoy the product. So it's a tricky situation. And Bambu has fixed a lot of the issues that people have had. They've made sure to cite sources and things like that in the past. So I think that they're learning. Granted, you have to keep in mind, Bambu is a very new company. They were basically founded by a team of engineers from DJI, and they're bringing products to market. Their CEO, super, super smart individual, Dr. Tao. I think they're doing great things, and I think that they're going to be around for a long time. I think they're going to be beneficial for the 3D printing world. But I think that we have to keep reminding them of what's open source, what needs shared, and what doesn't, to stop stepping on toes. Yeah, so Kyle, I like Orca Slicer. It's super simple, especially if you're coming from Bambu Studio. Creality has been trying to make people use Creality Slicer, which is a fork of Cura, for a long time. And I don't know anybody who's been happy about it. I don't think anybody's had a good experience necessarily. Like, you use it because, yeah, it's set up and ready to go. So that's all well and good and cool and fun, and it's just easy to go. But I would much rather... I really like the idea of having all of my slicers being in one place, not having to jump around. So being able to use Prusa Slicer or Bambu Studio or Orca Slicer or whatever, those are the interfaces that I typically prefer. I'm not a big Cura user anymore. That was what I used for a long time. Throat. The temperature is dropping, and I sleep with my mouth open. So it's really drying my mouth out at night, and I get sore throats pretty bad this time of year. So that's fun. So we got the turtle printing. I've gotten a few things off of my chest about kind of my thoughts on the A1 Mini. Overall, I'm really excited about the machine. I think that there's a lot of potential with the direction that Bambu is pivoting in. And I think that Maker World is a really, really cool thing that's happening. Very, very, very much inspired by printables. But where I think it does one-up them is the ability to just grab my cell phone and slice files from my phone, or not even necessarily have to slice them and just print them. And I do think that Bambu also one-upped Anchor Make on that as well with their app. They're aiming at this entry-level demographic, or people who want to be able to purchase machines very affordably and have a lower cost of entry. And I think the machine is absolutely going to do that. And what's up, Shayway? How are we doing, buddy? So, for those of you guys who don't know, Shayway is another super awesome creator here on YouTube. He's doing some really awesome 3D printer content. And if I'm not mistaken, he actually released his thoughts video on the A1 Mini the day that Bambu officially announced it and everything. So if you guys want more 3D printing content from another up-and-coming 3D printing content creator, go check out Shayway's channel. He's a nice guy, and we've been talking about working on some stuff together. I realize that I didn't respond to your email a couple weeks ago. Plans have unfortunately changed on that. Yeah, I'm gonna link Shayway's channel. Super nice guy, doing some really cool stuff of his own, and it'd be fun for more people to be able to go over and give him some love and support his channel, because 3D printing is taking a turn, and we have more and more awesome content creators coming up. So if we can show another person some love, let's do it. I mean, we try to get that early SEO traffic. I mean, was it successful? How's that video doing? Pretty okay. Pretty okay. I thought about doing this as a video, but decided to take the weekend off. And then yesterday, I started feeling this really, really weird feeling. Like, I was like, I didn't do a video this weekend. I don't have anything going live. And I really wanted something going out this week. So now like I told these guys earlier in chat, I'm kind of playing around with the idea of maybe every other week, maybe do a live stream and just hang out and chill, and then the off week do a project video or something. And that way I can do some fun stuff where I get to kind of relate to people and just chill for a bit, but still get content out and do something that's fun and a little bit more engaging. And then also still do the normal stuff that we do. My editor slash part-time cameraman's also kind of busy right now. He's doing some wedding photography stuff. So that is making things tricky. So I really do need to step up my shorts game. Like, I do some shorts and some good old TikToks, and I'm actually really close on TikTok to being able to go live finally. Like, I think their minimum requirement is just 1,000 followers, and I'm chilling at 945 now, which that's actually kind of blown up since I looked at it last. So I try to do short form where I can. And what I'm kind of doing is, I don't know if this is a good approach. It's definitely not necessarily the one for the most growth, but most of what I do on shorts is stuff that is mostly for me. Like, sometimes it's hyping up a video, but for the most part, it's just showing off stuff that I make for myself that I don't think I can necessarily turn into a 10 to 15 minute video. So most of my shorts are just fun, except for the ones that I did on this. For those of you who haven't seen it yet, this is my Nerf Caliburn, and it is insane. This thing hurts. It fires fast and leaves bruises. So I fully 3D printed a Nerf blaster, and I did make some TikToks with that. So Shay, something else that I'm playing with is also taking clips of full-length videos and just putting them on TikTok. There's some apps that you can use that, or that you can use to do that, but eventually I think you have to pay for them. So I don't know. The one that I did last didn't do super hot. It was the one where I got shot in the belly from the Caliburn video, which, by the way, listen to this thing. That sound is insane. So I'm going to shoot it at the wall beside me, and it's going to ricochet really hard. It bounced off both walls and then still hit me in the foot. I love this thing. Sorry, squirrel. Got distracted. Don't fall. So I've been playing around with chopping some stuff up. I use CapCut for most of my editing. Have you played around? I just saw Google released a YouTube editor as well to make shorts outside of the YouTube app. I downloaded it, but I haven't played with it yet. I don't really have anything to make shorts on right now. What is happening? Why did that turtle stop? The Bambu is paused. Why didn't you guys tell me it wasn't running? Filament ran out. What? I'm not out of filament. Printer, you're a liar. Oh, the filament broke. I'm nearing the end of the spool, so the filament broke off. And the printer lied to me about it and said that we ran out, which I guess it thinks it did. So we gotta fix that. Honestly, this is one of the reasons that I'm the most excited about getting my A1 Mini with the AMS, is the filament failover. So when you run out of filament, it just switches to the next one. Like, I really do want to get the full-size AMS for my P1P. What I really want to do is do a video where I upgrade my P1P to a P1S, because I don't have an enclosed printer that I can do like ABS and stuff with. and that makes me very sad. But it's really hard. Sorry for turning my back to you guys, by the way, but this is live. We gotta fix stuff, man. Nerf gun fell. It's just really hard for me to want to justify spending $350 on the AMS when I'm not sure how much multi-material printing I'm going to do. So I'm hoping that I use it a lot on the little guy. And that rat can't sound like demonetization because I'm not monetized yet. Take that, YouTube. You can't stop me because you don't pay me yet. No. So anyway, it's hard to want to spend the money on the AMS because I don't know how much multicolor printing I'm going to do. Realistically, I think the most benefit that I would get is the breakaway support material and the filament failover, because I will use filament until there's very little left on the spool, and filament runout sensors kind of suck. So you're using Premiere and CapCut. I use Resolve because it's free, and I don't want to give Adobe any more of my money than I already have to. Like, I know that Premiere is kind of like the industry standard, but Resolve is actually pretty powerful, and the plugins make it super easy to use. My editor and I are both trying to make a point of doing something new with the edit in each video that improves the quality. And we just found some really awesome tools for zooms and title transitions and stuff like that that make the text on screen more interesting. So I'm really excited to play around with that some more. Need a drink. So that's something that's kind of fun, but I'm cheap, and this channel has no operating budget, so Resolve is free. It just holds your filament. I have a rep box that does that. It's about the same size and form factor. I should really use my rep box more. Pooch made an awesome product that I just let collect dust, which is really sad. So, I can feel my throat starting to kind of give out, and I'm tired and haven't had dinner yet. So I think that we're getting really close to calling this one, guys. It's been a really fun, just a little bit over an hour. And let me know what you think. If you think that maybe we should start doing a bi-weekly live stream on alternate weeks to when we do full-length videos. It'd be kind of cool. It'd be kind of like maybe if I'm working on something for a video, we can do a little bit of what like Evan and Caitlin do on their second channel, where they'll actually take clips from live streams and edit it into a video when they're experimenting with a product or project. Maybe we do something like that, where if I'm working on something like the overall build of my Caliburn, I just kind of sat here and did this by myself and did a terrible job of making content out of the build process. Maybe we do something like that. It would be a little bit less strain on my editor. It would be a little bit easier for me. I'm just bad about keeping schedules and things, so that's kind of a bummer. Let me know what you think. I mean, I like this idea. Getting to just hang out and chat is pretty fun, and I think that it could be really beneficial. I think that this could be a fun way to really help grow the channel. On that note, if you guys didn't, please be sure to go over and subscribe to Shayway. He's a super nice guy making some really awesome videos here on YouTube. But I'm going to jump off here and have some dinner, and I'm going to go hang out and watch Patrick W3D over on Twitch. Thanks for hanging out. And